From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. World oil prices have dropped by about 30% since June. That has helped many economies around the world. Increased American oil production is one reason for the price change. Jim Crane is an energy expert at the James Baker Institute for Public Policy at Rice University. He says slowing economies in China and Europe have also reduced the demand for oil. In the past, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, would react to decreasing demand by cutting production. The 12 member states often cooperate to influence oil prices around the world. However, Jim Crane says members want to defend their share of the market and are unwilling to make production cuts. This could affect small oil-producing companies in the U.S. Small companies feel the effects of falling prices more sharply. U.S. companies are not alone in feeling pressure. Oil makes up 83% of Nigeria's exports and 70% of the nation's economy. Nigeria's finance minister recently announced measures to make up for lost oil money, including a 6% cut in government spending. India is increasingly dependent on oil imports. Lower oil prices have helped ease high inflation. The government also has moved to cut back fuel subsidies. The move has not affected the price people pay for fuel because of the sharp decrease in oil prices. In places like Houston, Texas, the oil industry is a major employer. Economist Patrick Jankowski says the oversupply will slowly disappear. He says lower prices may make energy company leaders nervous, but most are prepared to deal with it. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Can eating chocolate prevent age-related memory loss? Can eating chocolate cake be good for your heart? That might be too good to be true, but new research suggests that large amounts of substances found in cocoa may reverse age-related memory failure. Cocoa is the main ingredient in chocolate. The substances are called flavonols. Another study is trying to find out if high levels of cocoa flavonols can help prevent heart attacks and strokes. Flavonols found in dark chocolate are known to increase blood flow in the part of the brain that controls memory. A new study published in Nature Neuroscience suggests that cocoa flavonols reverse minor memory loss in older adults. A company that makes chocolate helped pay for the study. Dr. Scott Small is a professor of neurology at Columbia University in New York City. His study involved 37 volunteers between 50 and 69 years of age. Every day for 3 months, the volunteers drank a flavanol substance made from cocoa beans. Some subjects got 900 milligrams of flavanol a day. Others received 10 milligrams. The subjects had brain imaging and took memory tests before and after the study. Dr. Small says the subjects who had the drink with the most flavanol showed much improvement on memory tests. Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts, also has recently announced plans for a 4-year study of flavanol. Dr. Joanne Manson is the lead researcher of the study, which involves 18,000 adults. Some will take flavanols every day. Others will take an inactive substance. The researchers hope to learn if flavanol improves heart health. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. Rivers in northwestern Bangladesh rise sharply during the rainy season, causing months of flooding in villages and on farms. This hurts the rural poor who depend on agriculture to survive. When the floods cover their land, they cannot grow crops or raise animals. But local farmers may have found a way to deal with the seasonal weather. Some are building small farms that float on top of the floodwaters. Afiza Khatun works on a floating farm near the village of Charbangara. She raises ducks for eggs. The farm is made of bamboo and empty oil containers. It is attached to the bank of a river. Women also raise fish and vegetables. Ms. Khatun is 25 years old and has 2 young children. She could not earn money during the rainy season from July to October. During that time, the local river rises at least 3 meters. 3 years ago, a Bangladeshi nonprofit organization called Shitalai Swanivar Sangsa brought small floating farms to the village. The farms are 17 meters long and almost 5 meters wide. They are made of both recycled and local materials. Vegetables, such as gourds and beans, are grown in plastic containers filled with soil on the floating structures. The nonprofit group pays the cost of making the farm. 5 to 10 women work on one farm. Together, they can earn about $1,700 a year. That amount of money can buy a lot of food in rural Bangladesh. Ms. Khatun also rented land with the money she earned. She grows sugar cane on the land. Her family also is saving money in a bank for the first time. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Bicycle frames are usually made out of materials like carbon fiber, steel, or aluminum. But in rural Ghana, a businessman has developed another way to make bicycles using bamboo. The material does not get much respect in Ghana. Farmers think of bamboo as an unwanted plant that needs to be cleared from their land. Builders use it to support structures while they are being built. But Kwabena Danso thinks bamboo is much more valuable. He operates a business called Boomers International. His company makes bicycle frames out of bamboo. The bike parts are sent from Mr. Danso's village to other countries, including Germany, the Netherlands, and Australia. Kwabena Danso says bamboo can help a country like Ghana in many ways. He says he wants to, in his words, get the people to know that there's a great advantage to bamboo. Young men from nearby villages come to work at Boomers International. They put together the bamboo frames. The company makes about 50 of the bicycle frames each month. The bamboo grows in the area. The workers sand the material to make it smooth. They put together the bamboo pieces to make the frame. The sticky substance they use to hold the pieces together is made of flour from the cassava plant. Mr. Danso says Boomers International provides good jobs to young men in the area. Mr. Danso's business has received lots of orders for his bicycles. He says Boomers is ready for expansion. He hopes to have more of his bamboo frames, not just in foreign countries, but also on the roads of Ghana. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Many students say there is no easy way to write college papers. This may be especially true if English is not your first language. Most teachers agree that there is no single correct way to create a personal essay or a research paper. But there are methods to help you structure your papers. One way, often used to structure writing, is the traditional 5-paragraph essay. Many students learn this form in middle and high school. The paragraphs follow conventions or established rules. The first paragraph is introductory. It tells the reader what the paper is about. It is followed by 3 paragraphs containing evidence that support the writer's argument. The final paragraph is the conclusion. It provides a reasoned opinion based on the evidence. Allison Cummings teaches at Southern New Hampshire University. She is among many professors who find this form too simple for college work. Still, on the positive side, Ms. Cummings says the 5-paragraph essay form teaches a student some tools for writing a paper. She says the form teaches the need for an opening statement or thesis. This thesis tells the reader what will come next. But she also says the 5-paragraph essay falls far short of college writing needs. Students will be asked to write about more complex subjects. Ms. Cummings says noting the way the research is structured, can help students organize their own writing. She also provides her students with examples of successful and unsuccessful student papers from the past. That way, her class can see what works in a piece of writing and what does not. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. Investors in Hong Kong and Shanghai may now invest in a limited group of securities on either stock exchange. Chow Chung Kong is the chairman of Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing. He called the move a breakthrough in the opening of China's financial markets and an important milestone in the development of Hong Kong. The Shanghai Hong Kong Stock Connect gives investors the ability to buy stocks listed in mainland China. It also permits Chinese investors to buy stocks listed in Hong Kong. There are limits, however, to the value and the kinds of stocks that can be traded. Investors may trade only a total of $3.8 billion worth of stocks each day. Julian Evans Pritchard is a China economic expert at Capital Economics based in Singapore. He told VOA's Victor Beattie that the move to open the stock exchanges to each other was important. But Mr. Evans Pritchard noted that the total value of stock that can be traded is a relatively small quota, about 1% of total market value. Mr. Evans Pritchard says if the quota is filled, officials may see a reason to increase it over time and open up the exchange further. The stock plan represents a limited reform measure. Mr. Evans Pritchard says what is important is that China is opening up its capital account to foreign investment money, which can come in or go out. China's stock market offerings have had limited success in recent years. The biggest public stock offering by a Chinese company, Alibaba, took place on the New York Stock Exchange rather than within China. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. Climate change has caused a rise in sea levels. This has increased the amount of salt in fresh water used on coastal farms. As a result, farmers are increasingly unable to use fields close to the sea. Scientists call this process salinization. The term comes from the word saline, which means a mixture of salt and water. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says salinization is reducing the world's irrigated lands by 1 to 2% every year. Irrigation is the process of supplying land with fresh water from other areas. But a farmer in the Netherlands is now using a mixture of sea and fresh water to grow healthy and tasty vegetables. Mark van Rysselberg started with an experiment. He put several different kinds of plants in saline. Mr. van Rysselberg worked on the project with scientists from the Free University of Amsterdam. He divided a farm into 8 areas. Each was irrigated with either fresh water or water with different levels of salinity. Computerized measuring devices called sensors controlled the water levels and the levels of salinity. Mr. van Rysselberg says he was able to harvest vegetables from most of the 8 test areas. He says the vegetables were smaller than those grown in fresh water. But he says they also had more sugar and salt, so they tasted better. The farmer grew carrots, cabbage, onions, and beetroot. But he found that potatoes grew better than the other vegetables. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Testing new drugs for safety and effectiveness is a costly process in the United States. It also can take a lot of time. Some scientists are now designing silicon computer chips that act like human organs. The scientists think they have found a way to make the process faster and more economical. The silicon chips are smaller than a child's hand. Each one has living cells that act and react like a human organ. The chips are being created as part of a program to test the safety of drug compounds. It is called the Tissue Chip for Drug Screening Program. It is a project of the U.S. National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences, or NCATS. Danilo Tagle is the center's associate director. He says a 3-dimensional computer chip can be designed to act like a human lung. It can be made to breathe and expand and take in air and fluids just like a normal lung. Some computer chips contain very small models of the human digestive system. Drugs are added to the tiny organs for testing through instruments known as microtubes. Experiments with the tissue chips have produced more detailed information than tests using animal or cell models. NCATS just announced it won a $17 million award to develop an entire human organ system. Researchers at Columbia University are working on a project that would combine models of the heart, liver, and circulatory system. The scientists hope to test how well some drugs work on diseases of the heart and liver. Scientists hope the chips will make the process of developing drugs simpler. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. 13 years have passed since the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks that destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City. Now, its replacement has opened for business. One World Trade Center is America's tallest building at 104 floors or stories. The company Condé Nast Publishing recently moved into offices there. Condé Nast says it will have 2,300 employees spread among 24 floors of the building. The building still raises safety concerns among some people who remember what happened on the site. But those arriving for work soon after Condé Nast offices opened expressed no concerns about their safety. On that first day the building opened for business, Condé Nast, Port Authority, and construction company officials praised the new skyscraper. Condé Nast's chief executive, Charles Townsend, called it a wonderful day for New York City. Steve Plate is director of One World Trade Center construction. He says it was important to rebuild what was lost. He sees the building as a gift of remembrance, both for the people who lost their lives there and to remember how people pulled together afterwards. One World Trade Center is 541 meters high. There are 279,000 square meters of space within the building. 60% of the space has been rented or leased by a number of publishing, technology, and communication companies. One World Trade Center cost $3.9 billion to build. It is one of the world's costliest structures. The One World Trade Center website says the structure uses the newest safety and security systems. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. How far would you go to get a perfect body? Many people these days are traveling to South Africa to get their version of perfection. People from across Africa and around the world visit for so-called surgery safaris. They seek smaller stomachs, firmer bottoms, or maybe new eyes, noses, or chins, known as cosmetic surgery. Businesses that provide medical safaris say they have seen a large increase in African customers. And South Africa is becoming a center for these kinds of medical operations. For years, South Africa has appealed to medical tourists from Europe and the United States. But local cosmetic surgeons say now more people from Africa's growing economies are interested. Lorraine Melville is a doctor with Surgeon and Safari. She has been performing cosmetic surgeries for almost 16 years in Johannesburg. She says more than 80% of her clients now come from sub-Saharan Africa. They are treated like movie stars. Assistants take them from the airport to a beautiful guest house. Doctors operate the next day, and then patients stay a week or more as their bodies heal. They spend anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 on each cosmetic treatment. They might spend an additional $2,000 on the cost of the hotel while they heal. Dr. Chris Snijman is the National Secretary for the Association of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgeons of South Africa. He says the country has better and safer surgical methods than many others. And he says South Africa has a favorable money exchange rate. But medical professionals also say there must be stronger laws established to govern the industry as it grows. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. As the weather cools across the United States, a growing number of Americans visit farms. They harvest apples, enjoy hay wagon rides, and walk in the fields. These people are called agri-tourists. They improve the economy of rural areas and help farmers increase their profits. Montpelier Farms is in Prince George's County, Maryland, about 40 kilometers from the White House. On a recent day, some school children from Bowie, Maryland, visited the farm. They walked through a cornfield maze. The corn was cut to create tricky passageways that make it difficult to find a way out. Their teacher said the visit teaches the children about life on a farm. When Mike Dunn opened the family farm to agri-tourists in 2008, he had only a corn maze, a pumpkin field, and hay wagon rides. But he says so many people visited that he soon increased the activities. He says agritourism now brings in 30% of the Montpelier's earnings. But the farmer says he would like to double that. In neighboring Virginia, there are farms where grapes are grown to make wine. Many of the farms let people visit and drink the wine that is made there. Bill Hatch owns the Zephaniah Farm Vineyard in Loudoun County. He holds wine tastings in his home. At nearby Weatherly Farm and Vineyard, visitors can also get married, and the couple can stay the night at the winery as well. Owner Malcolm Baldwin says the money he makes from these activities lets him keep his small farm operating. In total, visitors spent more than $700 million on agritourism activities in the United States in 2012. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Persutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. The United States government recently launched a $231 million international education effort. The Let Girls Learn program is designed to move forward public education for girls. The program will start with 5 countries: Afghanistan, Jordan, Guatemala, South Sudan, and Nigeria. The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, is responsible for the programs. The agency says 62 million girls around the world do not go to school. It says millions more are fighting to stay in school. Many face danger trying to get an education. Christy Vilsack serves as a USAID Senior Advisor for International Education. She says it is important for young women to learn about education and to get support to attend school. She says girls are moved to learn by the lives of other girls, like Malala Yousafzai. Gunmen shot the Pakistani teenager on a school bus 2 years ago because of her activism for the education of girls. In Nigeria, the Islamic extremist group Boko Haram kidnapped hundreds of schoolgirls in April. Most are still being held. Christy Vilsack says Let Girls Learn will help about 250,000 girls in Nigeria. Ms. Vilsack says the program will train high-quality teachers. She says it also uses a new system to measure student progress. The official says she saw children in Pakistan taking a short test under this system. She says it quickly shows the ability to recognize letters. And it tells whether the student can name and pronounce or speak the sounds of the letters. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Prasuti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Ebola has struck hard in Sierra Leone. More than 1 million children have been unable to attend school because of the continuing crisis caused by the disease. But classes are now broadcast on 41 radio stations and the country's only television station. The educational programs are airing 3 hours daily, 5 days a week. In the country's capital, Freetown, 17-year-old student Doris Ansumana says radio broadcasts are a big change from her usual days of going to school. She says she misses the social life of school, like seeing other students. Still, Doris says she is enjoying the radio lessons. But she says other students do not have the chance to study because they must work. Her guardian, Yabanet Sase, agrees. She suggests that the government extend broadcasts to night hours. She says everyone stays home at night. Brima Michael Torre serves as Deputy Director for the Ministry of Education, Science, and Technology. He says the goal is to have the broadcasts take place from 11 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. He says the ministry worked hard to get teachers' opinions and advice. He says 30 of them put together the broadcasts. All are qualified to teach at different levels. Subjects include mathematics, science, and English. Mr. Torre says parents must understand that the ministry cannot continually watch their children. The Sierra Leone Association of Journalists and the Independent Radio Network are producing the broadcasts. Several international partners, including UNICEF, are also working with the ministry. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. The Commerce Department says the U.S. economy expanded at its fastest rate in more than 2 years. From April through June, the economy grew at a rate of 4.6%. That is good news. During the first 3 months of the year, the country's economy shrank by more than 2%. Some economists say the second quarter growth is a sign that the U.S. economy is finally improving. Others are not so sure. A severe winter is blamed for hurting businesses and keeping Americans away from shopping centers early in the year. The sharp increase in economic activity from April to June was welcome. But financial expert Greg McBride of Bankrate.com says it is only 3 months of growth. He spoke with VOA on Skype. Investors on Wall Street, however, have had confidence in the economy. The recent growth numbers pushed stock prices higher. The S&P 500 index, an important stock market measure, reached close to 2,000 points in recent weeks. Since then, stock prices have been up and down. David Stockton is an expert with the Peterson Institute for International Economics. He says economic conditions are improving as businesses increase investment spending. The Bureau of Economic Analysis, or BEA, said business spending and exports caused the increase in growth. That also could help the job market. The national unemployment rate is currently 5.9%. Yet wages have remained mostly unchanged, although there has been some job growth in the past year. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. Soil conservation methods help farmers protect their land from the damage caused by farming and the forces of nature. One method of soil conservation is the use of windbreaks. Windbreaks are barriers formed by trees and other plants. Farmers plant these barriers around their fields. Windbreaks help prevent the loss of soil. They stop the wind from blowing soil away. They also keep the wind from damaging or destroying crops. Windbreaks can be highly valuable for protecting grain crops. For example, studies have been done on windbreaks in parts of West Africa, These studies found that grain harvests were as much as 20% higher in fields protected by windbreaks compared to fields without them. But here is something interesting about windbreaks. They seem to work best when they permit some wind to pass through the barrier of trees or plants around a field. If not, then the movement of air close to the ground will lift the soil. Then the soil will be blown away. For this reason, a windbreak works best if it contains only 60 to 80% of the trees and plants that would be needed to make it a solid line. An easy rule to remember is that windbreaks can protect areas up to 10 times the height of the tallest trees in the windbreak. There should be at least 2 lines in each windbreak. One line should be the large trees. The second line, right next to it, can be shorter trees or other plants with leaves. Locally grown trees and plants are considered the best choices for windbreaks. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, has chosen a university town in Virginia as one of 6 places to test drones. Drones are aircraft without human pilots. A drone can also be called an unmanned aircraft system, or UAS. The town, Blacksburg, is home to Virginia Tech University. The university has flown and researched unmanned aircraft systems for years. But now, the research has more meaning. Researchers at Virginia Tech send reports to the FAA to assist in the development of national drone rules. The FAA says most business drones cannot operate legally now. The agency plans to announce rules for how drones can share airspace in the United States with major airplane companies. Air information sensors are common on manned airplanes, but researchers at the Virginia Tech University Test Center have added a sensor to their drones. The sensor records airspeed and altitude, the height of the flight. The information is sent through tubes to a computer that examines stability. All of the information is then sent to the FAA. The federal agency may also rule on another device to guarantee greater safety. The device is a special eyewear that lets a person see the flight as if he or she is on the drone. Pilots on the ground then can better direct the drone and keep it on a clear flight path. Researcher Justin Stiltner says drones can be used to do jobs that are uninteresting, dirty, or dangerous. Professor Craig Woolsey says farm studies are the main goal. Drone use will not change until the FAA publishes new rules, expected in late 2015. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. More people are able to receive higher education worldwide than in the past. But the amount of higher education is causing social and economic divisions in many countries. A recent study by the Organization for Economic Development and Cooperation, or OECD, also finds that some developing countries are making progress. 5 years ago, the world financial crisis hurt many nations, but it did not slow growth in education. The OECD report notes the quality and amount of education is increasing the division between what it calls the haves and the have-nots. In some areas, rising unemployment has affected people with lower education levels more than others. They earn considerably less than those with higher degrees. There are 34 economically developed countries in the OECD. Among those countries, the unemployment rate for people with a university education is about 5%. However, the rate is almost 20% for 25 to 34-year-olds who do not have a university degree. This situation also exists in developing economies. Andreas Schleicher is the Education and Skills Director for the OECD. He says education makes more of a difference in the life chances of people than in the past. The report finds that education makes a greater difference for individuals within countries. But it also notes that education is reducing divisions between developed and developing countries. Mr. Schleicher says countries like China, Vietnam, and Brazil are making education an important goal. He says they are investing their limited resources to get good teachers and school leaders. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. A new report says genetically modified or GM crops would greatly improve agriculture in Africa. The policy group Chatham House released the report. It says African governments are unlikely to approve GM crops because opponents are spreading fear about its possible dangers. Rob Bailey is a writer of the report. He says opponents have created anti-GM campaigns based on misinformation. He says they claim a link between GM and cancer, reproductive problems, or other health concerns. But Mr. Bailey says there is no evidence to support the claims. And he says GM crops offer the best hope of increasing productivity and dealing with climate change in Africa. Opponents of GM crops also argue that they are costly to grow. They say they do not produce more than non-GM crops. They say GM crops require more use of chemicals than traditional crops. And they say companies that support GM crops are more interested in making money than in helping poor farmers grow more crops. Tete Narte grows pawpaw, maize, and vegetables near the Ghanaian capital, Accra. This year, Ghana approved a test of GM grains like cowpeas. Mr. Narte disagrees with that decision. He argues that anything non-natural has risks. He also says there is not enough research into GM crops. Ghana's government says it has put strong laws in place to guard against problems from GM crops. Bernard Guri works at Ghana's Center for Indigenous Knowledge. He is worried that GM crops could force many of Africa's millions of small farms to stop growing food. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Every 40 seconds, a suicide takes place somewhere in the world. But the World Health Organization says only a few countries have policies aimed at suicide prevention. The United Nations Agency released a report about the issue on September 10th. The WHO report says suicide is a major international health problem. And the experts say about 75% of suicides happen in low and middle income countries. The WHO says the highest rates of suicide are found in Central and Eastern Europe and in some Asian countries. It says suicide rates in Africa appear to be lower. The WHO report also says suicide rates are highest in people over the age of 70. So, what leads people to kill themselves? The International Association for Suicide Prevention says studies have shown that being alone a lot can increase the risk of suicide. They say that having strong connections to others can help protect against suicide. The IASP says simply reaching out to people who have become disconnected from others may be a life-saving act. The WHO Director of Mental Health and Substance Abuse says there is much more that communities can do to provide support. Shakar Saxena says suicide is the final decision for people who are feeling alone, depressed, and hopeless. Often, these people reach out for help. Mr. Saxena explains how people can do more to provide support for people who find themselves at the lowest point in life. The World Health Organization is calling for nations to cancel laws that make suicide a crime. It says people who try to kill themselves need mental health treatment, not prison. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. In Vietnam, 2 members of a family of street vendors, people who sell goods on the streets, are finding a way to help the poorest students in Hanoi. Phan Minh Giap and his brother are providing the students with mostly free English and Japanese lessons at a learning center they created. The men want to help people who would not usually have a chance to learn a foreign language. Some education experts in Vietnam say a second language skill may help college graduates get jobs. The country's economy has improved, but many graduates continue to have a hard time finding employment. Local media report 10% of university graduates do not have a job. Earlier this year, 24-year-old Pham Man Dap and his brother opened a school they call Stand By You. Volunteers teach poor students English and Japanese. Many classes are free. Mr. Zup pays about $500 a month for classroom space and other costs. He provides about $150 from his earnings. His brother gives the same amount. Friends provide the rest. Mr. Zup says his students are poor, but so is he. He earns about $5 a day as a street vendor. Pham Thi Trong is one of 600 students at the language school. The 24-year-old is finishing her university studies. She says she earns about $50 a month, and her parents give her $75. She has said she has to be very careful with money. Demand for the school is growing. About 1,000 people are on a waiting list to enter. Mr. Zup says he is hoping to raise money to pay for a bigger place. He wants to open more classes. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.